jumbo jet. It wasn't easy, but nothing is. No. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy all of the time, but I never show why I need you. Please I need you. I got my head down when I was young. It's not my problem. It's not my problem. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy all of the time, but I never show why I need you. Please I need you.
Hello and good evening one and all, welcome to the live stream for the ASRC Formula 1 2021 Championship, the first round here at the Bahrain Grand Prix, brought to you by Chequered Flag Simsports streaming service. And just intro to the series itself, of course my name is Matthew Sarson and I'll be bringing you throughout the action for this afternoon and this evening throughout the day. And as already mentioned, it's going to be a wonderful race at the Bahrain International Circuit here, created in 2004 for its first Grand Prix, which of course was won by the one and only Michael Schumacher, and in second place was Rubens Barrichello and Jenson Button, so it has a ton of history behind it. And of course it plays a host to several other championships in the real world, such as Formula 2, even V8 supercars at one point, before going on to many 24-hour races as well. But today, of course, it is the Formula 1 in the virtual world here this afternoon, and it will be 18 to 20 Formula 1 cars in the top spec as we know them today, and they'll be trying to make their first impressions in the championship standings. As mentioned, it is going to be the international circuit. That's the one that we know and love, and it's the one that Lewis Hamilton took victory at just this year over Max Verstappen, who qualified on the front row, not so much, but of course these guys trying to do exactly the same here, and it's going to be very hot temperatures indeed. 36 air temperature, track temperature of 29, and it is going to be the night race that we know and love too. So we're going to have the wonderful sidetracks circuit lights beaming down onto the tarmac and glowing up the circuit itself in a wonderful golden glow. Moving on to the live races, as we do have live timing for you. If you are interested in following the race, then they are available down in the description below. Just keep track of what times the guys are setting, and it is Vladislav Zenkov with a 1:25.5, which is the fastest lap posted so far ahead of qualifying, and in second place is Paul Posisk with a 1:26.2. So a fairly large margin between our top two teams here this afternoon, and it'll be interesting to see how that translates into the qualifying session. Of course, can't really take the practice times into account. We do not know for certain who is holding back and who is actually going full out on these tyres. Talking about tyres, of course, we're going to have the three compounds available. You're going to have the softs, mediums and hard compounds, as we do in the real world as well, from Pirelli's. And we're expecting potentially two stop strategies to be heading into this first round due to the heat and the high tyre degradation, of course. Got a lot of high-speed corners to account for here at Bahrain, and that's going to play a lot of havoc on these Pirellis. So I expect to see a lot of mediums being used. They are the prime tyre, I'm being told by some of the drivers here this afternoon, and they're going to be looking to go into maybe the soft compound for that sprint to the finish. Potentially we might see some mixtures between the mediums and the hards if someone wants to risk and go for that one-stop strategy, but I'm told that the mediums are the best to use. Now we do actually have a onboard footage lap of the circuit made by the one and only Elliot Simpson. He's going to be partaking in the race here as well, and he's currently sitting P4 in the practice standings. But he's going to take us around the circuit for a short moment, and we'll see what kind of experience it is as a driver to go around this amazing circuit.
This is a lap guide for Bahrain International Circuit, ready for the upcoming round 1 of the ASRC 2021 Formula 1 Championship. So into turn 1, we're looking for the 100 meter board, and we're downshifting from 8th gear all the way to 1st, hugging the inside curb and back on the throttle nice and early, trying to carry the speed through the left hand kink back up through the gears. The DRS zone starts very early on this second straight, so be sure to look out for that. And now we're looking for the 100 meter board on the left to start braking down to 3rd. Try and carry the speed through there, but don't go too wide. I probably went a bit too wide there. And then to the right left, we're shifting down to 4th, taking the apex on both corners, and then down to 1st for the hairpin. Back up through the gears to arguably the hardest corner on the track. You're actually braking on the left hander here, so it's very easy to lock up. In fact, I do. And back down to 1st, up through the gears onto this straight. This is another DRS zone, and we're up to 7th gear here and looking for the curving on the right, where we start braking, downshifting to 3rd, then flat out through this left and the right. Make sure not to go wide on the exit of the right here, because you could bottom out on the curb, and then back down to 3rd for the second to last corner and onto the back straight, back up all the way to 7th gear, and already looking towards the final corner, ready to start braking at the 100 meter board again, down to 3rd, carrying as much speed as possible, get a nice fast exit, and look for the DRS zone, which is coming up now, and then open the DRS, and that is a lap of Bahrain.
Well, welcome back to the live stream, ladies and gents. Thank you, Elliot, for that commentary and onboard footage of the circuit that we're going to be partaking on this evening. And we're just waiting for the qualifying session to finally go ahead, which will be starting any minute now. And that, again, will be the first opportunity for the teams to finally lay down their personal bests and hopefully a bit of an ego boost for themselves going into the first round. Of course, points being awarded. They have done pre-season testing, so some pretty fast guys out there as we're seeing some of the lap times come in. Vladislav Senkov is still holding the top position at the moment with that 1:25.5, although some of the teams now starting to close down, especially the number 4 car, which is Albert in the, I believe, it's one of the McLarens, if I'm not mistaken. I'm still trying to get to grips with who is who. Of course, it's the first round here, and it's my first live stream, so I apologise ahead if I get any of the names wrong or if we do make any mistakes. But we're just waiting for qualifying to go ahead now. It's going to be a short session before we go into the race, which will be 56 laps long here at Bahrain. So plenty of action to unfold as some of the teams are now waiting to go over. And of course, now we see that darkness come in as the 20-minute session is go. And of course, one of the McLarens going straight out of the pit box, wanting to get that nice clear part of the circuit, and we should expect to see them all going on mediums or softs, of course, for this stage. Dylan Tarboten, a familiar name actually from the CFS days when we used to host our own events, going out into the circuit, leading the pack now as he will try to warm up those tyres before going on his first ever flying lap. Of course, we're having the standard liveries for this season, so you'll see plenty of colours. And big mistake there already from one of the Haas drivers as he goes very deep into Sector 2. Of course, this stage, just trying to warm up the tyres, make sure that you've got your compounds in their prime optimal operating temperatures. And as Elliot mentioned, going into this particular set of corners, very tricky to get the car turned in, especially on those cold tyres, very easy to seize. And I'm not too sure how much R-Factor 2 will simulate it, but if they do flat spot these compounds, then it will start to cause some vibrations going through the steering columns. Of course, R-Factor 2, one of the only sims out there that does actually have flat spot tyres. So just coming down into Sector 3 now, past turns 13, and a lot of DRS sections available for the first round as well. Of course, we haven't mentioned or talked about that and how the Formula 1 system works. For those that don't know, of course, they're going to have the curve system. Obviously, they get the boost going over the start-finishing line or whatever they choose on track. They get a certain amount of allowance per lap. And, of course, we've got the DRS system. So once they're going down these start-finishing straight, especially here in qualifying, crucial to get the timing correct. And that will gain them a few extra kilometres an hour as Dylan goes very deep into turn 1. So not the beginning that he was hoping for. Of course, he left the pit lane knowing that there will be very little traffic to deal with, but that's not the way to start your qualifying hopes. Now following Anton here for his first qualifying lap. He's just warming up as we speak in the Red Bull, coming down into the final corner now speeding up though. Across the start finishing line, let's go on board. Of course, plenty of gears here in the 2021 Formula. As Skirchenko comes down into turn 1. Again, slight overshot from the apex of turn 1. Manages to recover quite nicely for the kink. And now coming up into turns 3 and 4. Potential overtaking opportunity come the race. Of course, we've seen many people go too wide through here, especially Lewis Hamilton and Rosberg as well. They've had a few battles here at Bahrain. Now into Sector 2. This is the technical part. Just make sure he handles this nicely. And the most tricky corner of all, turn 10. No smoke coming from any of these tyres, so it's a nice middle sector here as he's now powering towards turns 11. Keeping over to the right hand side. Of course, you've got the track lights to illuminate the way. No headlights on the Formula 1 cars, of course. And coming through the very high speeds, turns 12 and 13. Oh, slightly missed the apex, unfortunately, into Sector 3. He's going to be looking over to the left hand side, watching for that 100-meter board. Slam on the anchors, make sure you get a good exit, which he does. There's a bit of a slight oversteer moment there. He catches it though. And across the start finishing line, he's currently sitting in P13 with no lap on the board. It is going to be P5 for Skilichenko there in the Red Bull 97. So very good lap from him. In the lead at the moment though is Callum Lloyd in the number 3. And that's of course one of the Aston Martins. And his teammate is Elliot Simpson. So very good showing here for Aston Martin indeed. Both cars on the front row. Perhaps the new Mercedes for this season. And just outside in P5 we have the first of the Ferraris. That's Vladislav Zenkov. Of course we've seen in practice from the timings there that he's very quick indeed. So one to watch out for. And the first time you actually see a Mercedes is in P5 in terms of 43. And we have a spin there for Callum Lloyd. Just takes a bit too much curbing on the exit. And we've got the yellow flags out there from some of the marshals as the Ferrari makes its way around. And back underway once more. So nice recovery. Make sure he didn't rejoin in the middle of traffic, which is always nice to see. Very good driving standards there. And of course, the question is for Callum, has he flat spotted those tyres now? Yeah, he's decided to come back in for a new set, it seems. And I do not blame him there. His teammate, Elliot Simpson, has now been demoted down to P4. In fact, some of the times really starting to come through now as we have a new leader in the form of the Alfa Romeo 88. And the 97 also, so Anton Skilichenko also going up the timetable now into second place. New third place car as well, which is Igor Artemov and that is one of the Haas cars. I think that's probably going to be their best showing for the season compared to their real-world results and performance. I think Haas can only dream of a real-world performance like that. But going extremely well at the moment, P3, and the gap to the lead. Oh, he's actually just gone second fastest. 0.2 seconds off our leader, which is a 1:26.972, the time to beat. So as we go into the qualifying session, it is slowly getting faster. 13 minutes remaining. And we still have a few cars yet to set a time, including Dylan Tarboton. He's currently out on circuit as we speak, currently setting a green sector 1, 27.391. So he's slightly off the pace of the front running cars. They're all into the 26 seconds in the first sector. Now coming through sector 2, just about to come to an end now as he goes through turns 12. .39.2, so it's another green sector personal best. Again, that's about half a second off what the front running rows are currently setting. Across the start finishing line, so this is one of the McLarens. What's it going to be? Currently sitting in P16, goes up to P10, so it's a admirable performance at the moment. It's 1.6 seconds off the front row. Still going for another lap though, so maybe we'll see the McLaren improve on the next few laps or so. We have a new second place car, and that is Paul Porcic in the Alfa Romeo. Just 0.140 seconds off the front. Oh, bit of a slight wiggle there as he comes out of turn 10. We talked about this, very tricky corner indeed. The exit is absolutely crucial, as you have a DRS zone in between the two corners. So just try to get down on the power a bit too early. That send the rear end slightly sideways. Coming into sector 3 now, so he's going to have to ruin or abandon that lap. Be interesting to see if he decides to go in again as Anton Skirichenko comes into the pits. Just getting some new tyres, maybe a bit more fuel, of course. Igor Artemov still going strong in P5, 0.4 seconds off the top. This is going to be his outlap. We don't actually have any live data coming through for Artemov at the moment, so this is going to be his warm-up lap, I believe. Otherwise, we will be getting sector times, which we are currently not. Things changing constantly, though, as we go down into P8. Vladislav Semkov in the Ferrari moving down the order now into P8. He's got to find an extra 8 tenths, rather, in order to find his way back to the front. Elliot Simpson once again for the Aston Martin team going second fastest now, so finding that extra bit of time, just 1/10 shy of claiming pole position for the first round here. Nice lap there from Zenkov going P5, so he's managed to find that extra bit of time, mostly in sector 2 it seems. His third sector wasn't actually green whatsoever, so not setting his personal best, but certainly in sector 2 enough to finally claw his way back up in towards the higher end of the top 10. So now all of the cars have set a time, ranging all the way down to car 82, which is Dmitry Agapov. I believe he is one of the reserve drivers for AlphaTauri. as the official drivers could not actually make it here this evening. So a shame for the start of the season, but no doubt they'll try to make it up in the later rounds. So Callum Lloyd now going fastest in the Aston Martin. So familiar sight as to the start of the session, finding his way back to the front. 1:26.692. Now the time to beat. It was just enough to claim it away from the 88. And of course, Elliot Simpson also joining him on the podium for qualifying. Currently sitting in third place, 1:26.8. So he's just a few tenths, or 1/10 shy of that front row as he just comes down into the final corner now. That dark green Aston Martin looking splendid here. Now across the start finishing line, is it going to be an improvement? As I say, he needs to find 1/10 in order to move up the order. And we have a new front row, Alfa Romeo once again on pole position. Great performance from Chris here. He seems to be able to find an answer to everything that the Aston Martin team can lay on the table. Both Callum and Elliot trying their best to make sure that they claim that front row seat, both of them side by side, but whatever they do, Chris seems to find that extra tenth or two in order to deny them and push them just that one place back. Strong performance coming in from the number 6, which is the sister car as well. So again, it seems to be Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo performing the strongest here. Just outside in P5, although we've just had him go, so Paul Polsic going into P3 now. So Elliot Simpson being demoted just outside of those podium positions. It's extremely tight up at the top end at the moment. On board with the number 6. So he's on the medium compound as well. Now, talking to the drivers before going into this particular event, it seems that maybe the softs are a bit too fragile for the heat. Oh, bit of a wild entry there from the number 6 coming into pit lane, but interesting way to end the session or that particular run as we now come into the final 5 minutes. But yeah, just going back to the tyres, it appears that the soft compound, which is available to the teams for this event, it seems to be too fragile due to the Bahrain heat. So most seem to be opting for the mediums and potentially even the hards. Callum Lloyd is actually on the full softs at the moment. Apparently parc fermé rules do apply, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out during the race. Of course, if they are going to go for softs, then they're going to switch over to the mediums fairly quickly, which will be what I believe to be the largest portion of the race. Coming into the final corner, he's got to find, oh, there's a bit of a moment there coming out. Yeah, he's decided to abandon that one. So it was looking to be a fairly decent lap from Callum Lloyd, but he decides better of it and comes into the pit lane once again. Moving down the order slightly, down to P5, Anton Skilichenko for Red Bull. Needs to find just a few tenths in order to move up the order, potentially into the podium positions. He's 0.5 seconds off front row, but just to the next car, it is 0.07 of a second. So nothing in between those two at all. Next car up ahead, of course, is Elliott Simpson in the Aston Martin, followed by the number 6 Alfa Romeo. Now, interesting that the 97 is actually on the medium compounds at the moment. You can tell by looking at the colour of the tyre compound on the sidewalls, which is currently yellow. That indicates that it's medium. Red is soft, and the hard compound is white, I believe. Coming down to the final corner. It's not been the best lap here from Skirichenko. He comes to the start finishing line. Can he improve? And no, so that is not an improvement there. He's actually gone down into P6 now, as the number 4 Ferrari has now moved up into second place. Maslenikov doing a fantastic job there of finding some extra pace near the end of the session. That's the time that you want to do it as well. 1:26.622. That's just shy of 3/10 off the front row. Or the pole position, should I say. Purple sector 3 there from Maslenikov. So he's certainly got the pace in the Ferrari in the final stages of the lap. Sector 1, however, is a different story. He's slightly grey on the timing sheets, so he needs to find a bit of pace there in those first few corners, potentially down into the first chicane or hairpin. Now through sector 3, through turns 10 and 11. No personal improvements through sector 2 this time by. Maybe just trying to cool down the tyres or going for another lap. We'll wait and see. On board with Albert now as he comes into pit lane, unfortunately, so we won't be able to get that on-board lap. In the meantime, Vladislav Zenkov going into third place, so Ferrari really heating up in the final few minutes here, just shy of 2 left remaining, so if anyone wants to go out and set a lap time, it's going to have to be now. Vladislav Zenkov, after setting that lap, has gone down to P4 already, unfortunately. But both Ferraris are still in third and fourth, respectively. Elliott Simpson still going faster in the Aston Martin. He's just shy of that 10th of a second off pole position. But in the meantime, Chris is still holding on to that pole position. And it looks like someone had a slight spin, as we had a small moment where the yellow flags came out. And now we see the backing up and the bunching up. Of course, they're all trying to find the space for that final flying lap. Last final opportunity for the teams to claim the first podium of the season. And some slipstreaming going on here from one of the Mercedes. He decides to go by. Of course, 30 seconds left. If you screw this up, then you could be out and lose some positions, that's for sure. 24 seconds left. All the other cars are going by. Hoping to get to the checkered flag. Elliott Simpson seems to be fairly confident that he can make it in time, though. As he comes down into sector 3. He's got 10 seconds left. He's leaving it very tight indeed. Here come most of the cars now. Down the back straight. Some of the back runners amongst them here. And we've got a bunch of cars coming across the start-finishing line as we speak. In fact, Nick Stefanenko coming into pit lane, so he's decided to back out. He didn't actually make it in time to start his final flying lap, so that hasn't worked out at all for these guys. In fact, a lot of them now coming in, so that final dash to the start-finishing line has not worked out for a lot of them. And in fact, that entire group of cars that was coming across the start-finishing line, trying to get one final attempt at the qualifying, did not make it at all. So we've got a few cars left now coming to an end. In fact, we have the last running car which is the 11 Mercedes. Unfortunately, at the bottom of the order, so he's trying to find a bit of time. 1:29.2, their personal best, as they come through Sector 2. Driven by Nazar Zedakmetov. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If not, I do apologise. He's set a personal best in Sector 2, so he could be looking at moving up slightly. He's only got to find a few tenths in order to do so. And he won't be starting on the back row. So he comes across the start-finishing line now at the checkered flag. And he goes up into P15. So nice result there for the 11 Mercedes. Got a few cars still going around the circuit at the moment, but officially the qualifying session has come to an end. So just trying to burn some rubber, I believe. But let's have a look at the session results for you, ladies and gents. See who is where and who has come out on top for the first round this afternoon. So the Ferrari leading the way, 1:26.306 by Albert Maslenikov. He put in that last-ditch attempt, followed by Chris in the Alfa Romeo, the 88. Elliot Simpson in the 27 Aston Martin, rounding out those podium positions. Vladislav Lenkov in the second of the Ferraris, followed by Callum Lloyd. Paul Polsiuk in the in P6 in the number 6. Then we have Lucas Bywald in the Mercedes in P7. Anton Skilichenko up and down the order, but settled for P8. Igor Artemov in P9 for the first of the Hasses. And then Nick Stefanenko in P10 for the Williams. Dylan Turbotin settling for P11 in the McLaren. Andrei Formichev in the second of the Hasses, followed by Christopher Turbotin in the Red Bull for P13. Moses Reyes in the Alpine for P14. We just saw Nazar go around the circuit, settling for P15 in the second of the Mercedes. We've got Fran Rodriguez, I believe it's for the second of the Alpine F1 teams. And then rounding out the order, we have Dmitry Agapov in the Alpha Tauri, who is, of course, the reserve driver. And, of course, we do have a safety car with us this evening. They'll be taking us around the start-finishing lap, so bear it in mind. And those are your qualifying results, ladies and gentlemen. So we do have a short session where we are going to be going through the warm-up before the race. Good opportunity for the guys to make their final changes. Make sure that they've got everything ready and are good to go. It's going to be a long race, of course, with 56 laps. Some of the teams looking to find that extra bit of pace, maybe perfect their driving lines before going into the race session. But of course, very good result for some of the teams. It'll be interesting to see how they walk away from that and whether or not it was what they were expecting. Of course, going into a championship like this, you have an idea in your head where you want to be, what you want to achieve before you finally put the cards down on the table and we all go for it. Of course, we see it in the real world when they all go to Melbourne, etc. Nobody really knows where they stand in the grand scheme of things. You have pre-testing, which these guys have had in the Formula 3, in their test day as well, or a test race, shall we say. So they're all familiar with the cars. They've all been testing prior to coming here this afternoon, but you don't really know how much the competition is holding back until all cards on the table, as I just say. So you can see the wonderful glow. Of course, in the sim racing world, we're skipping one day. That was Saturday. This is now Sunday. So you've got the evening sunset in the distance there here at Bahrain. Wonderful imagery, of course, before going into the nighttime race. Let's see if we can get some of the guys in to have a quick word, maybe share some thoughts on what their kind of approach is to the race, if possible. We've got a bit of time to go through before we get to the green light racing. And just while we wait for those guys to come in and give us some breakdowns of how their laps are going, maybe potentially how their cars are set up compared to the others, and go from there. So we're just going to drag in Elliot Simpson first. He, of course, was in the Aston Martin, going up and down the order very nicely. In fact, both Aston Martins putting in a really strong performance at the end of qualifying. So it'll be interesting to see what their thoughts are of the session. Maybe find out what they were doing. Yes, hello Elliot. Welcome to the live stream and all the guests. We're just saying how you guys, the Aston Martin team as a whole, very strong performance there in qualifying. Tell us your thoughts. Of course, it's the first time you've been out on circuit and out against competition. Is it where you wanted to be? And walk us through it.
Yeah, it's actually probably better than we expected, if I'm honest. We thought Vlad and Albert in the Ferraris would dominate because they've been turning loads of laps. And so we were expecting to kind of get left in their dust, but that didn't happen. So we kind of, I mean, the qualifying was all the way from kind of last place to first place was incredibly close. So to be kind of top 5 for both of us is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we were saying how as the session went on, we saw faster and faster times, and there was a good exchange between you with the Alfa Romeos and the Ferraris as well. Did you find that the Aston Martin was consistent here at Bahrain, or did you have any struggles going through the session as it developed?
Honestly, the car feels very good to drive. We are running a setup, like a custom setup, but it's actually quite similar to the baseline that comes with the mod, and it's just very stable. I think probably our strength is actually race pace and race stability. So yeah, again, it's kind of quite surprising to be so high up on the grid for quali, but I mean, I'm not complaining, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Talk us through the tyre situation on the Aston Martin. Of course, we were mentioning already on the stream about it's a very hot day here at Bahrain. Of course, we're in the middle of the desert. How are the Pirellis holding up? Because we did notice that you guys were on softs. Is that going to be a problem for you guys during the race, or do you think it will hold together nicely with the strategy you have this afternoon?
I haven't seen what everyone else... I assume quite a lot of the top 10 was on soft as well. You probably know more than me, to be honest, but
well, we've seen a mixture of mediums and softs. I guess is kind of what is the approach to the race that you want?
Yeah, I guess the softs, or at least we feel like the softs actually can go like decently far into the race.
Yeah.
After a bit of testing that we did just on the server this morning. Obviously, track conditions play a role, so you know, we might be wrong, but we think we can probably stretch the softs long enough to jump on the mediums, and then kind of, I mean, in an ideal situation, we can actually one-stop this race.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because we personally think the hards are too slow. You know, they're not worth going on. So we want to keep it on the softs and mediums, and obviously we've elected to start on the soft, so we might go soft, medium, medium, or soft, medium, soft, but in an ideal world, just soft, medium, and pull off the one-stop. Yes. So I think we'll have to pick our battles quite wisely in order to save our tyres as much as possible.
That's an interesting point. Moving on, or just touching on that point, you, as you say, you're starting in the top 5. Does that change the mindset slightly? You say you was aiming to be there. What kind of approach do you have on this race? Are you going to attack hard at the start, or is it more about holding back, analysing what happens ahead, and thinking about the strategy more than anything else?
Yeah, I think obviously this might be a slightly boring approach, but I think we're definitely going to go with the strategy approach. We're really happy to be this high up in the top 5, but we definitely don't want to scrap away too hard in the first few laps, because these tyres, if you overheat them too hard in the first few laps, then your tyre wear for the rest of the stint is pretty bad. So we're aiming really just to kind of keep it calm, collected, and stay out the wall, and then go from there, really.
That's always helpful when the car comes back in one piece, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Of course, it's a strong start for Aston Martin, and you know, you guys have got a long race, 56 laps. I will wish you all the best, and best of luck out there for the race.
Great, thank you very much. Let's hope we get to the finish line.
Fingers crossed. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
So that was Elliot Simpson, of course, driver for one of the Aston Martins. A very strong performance, again, as we just saw in the qualifying. If you're just joining us, hit that rewind button on the live stream if you're watching on YouTube. Just watch through some of the times that were being set. Very interesting indeed to see how the track developed as those times and the rubber started to set in on the tarmac here on the Bahrain International Circuit. and very tight between the top running teams, the Ferraris, the Alfa Romeos and the Aston Martins. A few Red Bulls coming into the mix, especially Anton Skivichenko, who we're just on board with now, or watching go around the circuit as we come through the warm-up session. And we'll try and get some other drivers in, perhaps, just to see how their approach is. Maybe someone outside the top 10, or maybe even the front row, we don't know. But just got a few moments left before we come to the end of the warm-up, 7 minutes to be exact. So if you're bored and you haven't got anything to do, press that like button, hit the subscribe, or check out the league in the description below. They've got their own Discord, all the information there for you. If you're looking interested, if you want to partake in some Formula 1 action, not too sure what the availability is for this particular season, but they've got, I believe, another series just booting up in the form of the Alpine road cars. So that'll be interesting to follow and partake in. But again, all the links in the description. If you're interested in these guys, then feel free to check them out below. We've just had Vladislav Zenkov enter the chat room. So welcome to the commentary box, Vladislav, and walk us through your qualifying lap here. Are you where you expected to be? Are you happy with the result this afternoon?
Yeah, hello everybody. Thanks for the TV stream. Actually, to be honest, me and my teammate Albert Maslenikov, we expected to be very high at this qualification, but this qualification was very nervous because almost 20 cars, everybody is very fast. You have only 20 minutes to set a lap, to set a good lap, to expect a good position. And also we choose that alternative strategy, which actually is main strategy, because 4 cars out of 10 qualified in the mediums, just 2 Aston Martins. And yeah, we expected what Alberto will be very fast on quali pace, and he secured pole position. I'm not a big fan of Chequered circuit, so I am very happy of P4.
Yeah, so you guys had a very strong performance again. You're still way up there inside the top 10. Of course, as you say, your teammates secured pole position. Moving into the race, because you've got those 2 different positions, does that change things slightly? You don't know where you're going to be. It's the start of the season. You're not too sure what everyone else is going to bring to the table. Now that you've secured pole position, is that going to change the approach of you guys this afternoon?
We expect it to be strong here, and this is just stick to the plan, try to get as much points as possible to drivers and constructors tables.
And we're talking to Elliot Simpson about the tyre compounds here. They're obviously starting on softs. How do you guys feel with the tyres here? There's a lot of heat here at Bahrain. How do you guys manage that? Are you comfortable?
Tire management very important here because it's a long race, 57 laps, and also there's a couple of very hard braking points, especially turn 9 when you need to brake while steering. This is very complicated for the tires. You don't need to lock it up, and of course the tire management will be a very big part of success.
Yeah.
And I hope we will not destroy our tires on first laps.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I mean, we've seen already during the qualifying some cars seizing up, especially on that front left tyre. And of course, R-Factor 2, you can get some rumbling coming through the steering column where you've flat spotted them, and that's pretty much it. But, are you guys going for a 2-stop strategy? That seems to be what I'm hearing from a lot of the guys at the moment. Are you guys the same?
You will see.
We will see. Oh, you're gonna keep your mouth closed. Try and play the tactical game.
Everything can change if somebody is gonna play bowling in turn 1. This is a very long race, the first race of long season, and always the first race of the season is very crazy, so we can't expect something.
Yeah.
To be sure, we can't to be sure on something.
Well, you guys, you know, best of luck for you and your teammate this afternoon. Just take it easy, as you say, and don't seize up going into turn 9. Not that I'll be watching, of course. But best of luck to you guys. Have a good race, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
So that was Vladislav Zenkov there, one of the Ferrari drivers. And, you know, keeping his mouth closed in terms of the tactical approach from for Ferrari here this evening. Of course, as you say, anything can happen. We just don't know with motorsport. You could have a very clear race day. Not too sure what's going to happen. Of course, Bahrain is actually the place where we had the meme or GIF, whichever you want to call it, of the man on fire, Roman Grosjean. Very lucky man indeed. Certainly spent one of his 9 lives going into the barrier on the exit of turn 2. Very scary moment for those that remember it. But, you know, that's how quickly things can change in Formula 1 and in motorsport. And of course, luckily, thankfully, in the virtual world, we don't have any of those scary sights to see. Now, we do, of course, have the guys still going around in practice at the moment. Of course, we haven't got any timing. Feel free to check out live races, though, if you are interested in some of the times being posted. Of course, when we move over to the race session, we will bring all of the data for you, including the timetable, etc. Do not worry about that. We'll just last few moments, though, 1 minute and a half before we go over to the race, and then we will have the safety car take the guys around. Safety car being driven today by Alexei Salvini, or Savailev. I apologise, I completely butchered your name just then, so apologies in advance. And they're going to be using the Porsche GT3 RS in a lovely red. It's going to be leading the pack around this season. No Mercedes, unfortunately. They've been demoted. We don't want them anymore. They're too dominant. So Porsche rejoining the Formula 1 stage, albeit in the form of a safety car. And the team's now going across. Just a few last final checks, just perfecting their lines, making sure that they're comfortable, especially coming down into this particular corner. As mentioned, turns 9. Very easy to seize that front left tyre. And if done repeatedly, of course, that will damage the compound and cost you a lot of time. Because once it starts, it only gets worse and worse as you keep seizing the tyre. It's very easy to do indeed. So it'll be interesting to see how the teams manage that challenge. Potentially some will do better than others. And that will be the difference between winning and losing, no doubt. So the car's now coming back into pit lane, getting ready for the race. Igor Artemov, one of the final cars out on the circuit. The standard announcement from the R-Factor 2 race control or race director, whatever you want to call it. Basically, everyone get off the grid. Scream it at the top of his lungs, as always. But yeah, we're now waiting for the session to begin, as the cars will soon be lining up. No doubt they have a few moments to prepare themselves. This is the part of the event where that heartbeat starts to slowly but surely increase. Of course, at the start of the season, not too much to worry about in the grand scheme of things. luckily. There's plenty of opportunities moving ahead to rectify any mistakes, but it will be certainly a good boost to the guys if they can get that early lead in the championship standings. So in a few moments' time, we will be walking you through the lineup. As one of the cars actually starts early, very early. Of course, in this championship, we will be expecting the traditional warm-up lap under safety car before they are then released from standing start. So when the lights go out, that won't be the start of the race, it will be the start of the warm-up lap, of course. Safety car will be available should anything go horribly wrong. Let's have a quick look at the starting order for you as they get ready to go. As the Ferrari leads the way off the start of the line. So Ferrari Scuderia in the number 4, Albert Maslenikov leading the way ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Chris in the 88 in second place. Then we have Elliot Simpson and Vladislav Slenkov in P4. Callum Lloyd in the second of the Aston Martins in P5. Paul Kosik in P6. Then we have Lucas Bywald and Anton Skilichenko in the 97. P9 is Igor Artemov, followed by Nick Stefanenko and in the Williams. Then Dylan Tarbotin in the McLaren, and then Andrei Fomichev in the 77. Christopher Tarbotin in the 69 in 13th. Moises Reis in P14. Then we have Nazar Segamentov in P15. And then for rounding out the final order is P16 in 53 and 17, which is Dmitry Agapov. So there is your starting order, ladies and gents. Just waiting for them to complete their warm-up lap, and then they will line up once again before being unleashed at Bahrain International Circuit, round 1 of the series. Very important moment, especially for the front running car. Tyre temperatures, a vital part of the race, especially coming into turn 1. Starting on a medium compound here for the Ferrari. He's going to have to time this quite nicely. He's just zooming out of the final corner, trying to build up some heat in those rears, as they will be vital. This time starting on the left-hand side, so he may be attacked by the Alfa Romeo behind, or alongside, should I say, coming into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see. Just trying to warm up those tyres, starting and stopping. Brakes, of course, very important indeed, especially here at Bahrain. It's a very tight right-hander for turn 1. As the cars now start lining up side by side, you can see some weaving in the background, waiting for the rest of the grid to be in place. And one of the final cars, which is the Mercedes on the back row, finally getting into line. Positions and data available for you on the left-hand side, ladies and gents. The lights are on. Wait for the green. And we are racing at the Bahrain International Circuit, the first round of the ASRC Formula 1 Championship. The Ferrari gets a really nice start coming down into turn 1. Albert Manislenkov defending against Chris in the Alfa Romeo. Aston Martin from Elliot Simpson, really nice attack into second place. Moving up the order ever so slightly. Vladislav Stenkov is still in P4, so he's making a good start as well. Callum Lloyd in the meantime down into P5. Igor Artemov in P6. All coming down now into Sector 2. 0.5 seconds already between the Ferrari and the Aston Martin. So a good mixture of cars already for the top 3 positions. Now down into turn 9. This is where it's all going to go wrong in the starting stages. No puffs of smoke from the front runners. All is well. And going slightly behind into the top 5, we have a bit of a mistake here from Callum Lloyd. Igor Artemov going through. Nice pass for P5 from the Haas driver. Now coming through Sector 3, up through the S's. Full speed here in these Formula 1 cars, of course. Paul Posic in behind for the Alfa Romeo. Oh, and we have a big off from Lucas. And that's the 43 Mercedes. A nice save. Counter-steered into the mistake and was able to hang on. But now he finds himself under attack from Stefanenko. Down onto the inside. Into the final corner for the Williams driver. Nicely held though. Oh, another bit of a twitchy moment as those tyres struggle to get up to temperature. On board with Lucas Bywald at the moment, behind the Williams and in the slipstream. Braking heavily down into turn 1. That's another position change, defending or trying to retake that position that was once lost. Bit of room given. Tight squeeze there for Stefanenko coming into turn 2, but it was enough to keep the Williams driver at bay. Back to our leaders then. Albert still in charge for the Ferrari team. Simpson still firmly attached to the rear bumper though, not allowing the Ferrari to get away from the rest of the grid. They are slightly creating a gap though between himself and the 88 Alfa Romeo behind. And again, once another slight gap between Vladislav Slenkov, who is comfortably sitting in P4. Of course, DRS will be available very shortly in a few laps' time. That will really spice things up and close all of these top 5 drivers together. A few more positions being exchanged in the top 10. Lucas Bywald trying to make a move on Paul Posic in the number 6 Alfa Romeo. Callum Lloyd stabilised once more after that earlier mistake coming out of turn 10, so he's currently sitting in P6 and down into the final corner. New best lap time from your leader. That's Lenikov, and here comes Lucas now looking down the inside of the Mercedes. Alfa Romeo goes defensive. Lloyd in the Aston Martin remaining where he is. And a nice move there from Lucas. He goes down the inside of turn 2. Stefanenko still firmly attached to this group of cars in the Williams. Oh, has a little peek down the inside. Coming into sector 2. Not able to make it stick though. Very bold manoeuvre indeed. Could have gone horribly wrong, but nice reading of the road ahead. Callum Lloyd now under attack from Bywald and the Mercedes behind. The Aston Martin driver has lost a bit of ground to the front rows. So the top 5 getting away quite quickly. And Callum Lloyd finds himself on his own, going a bit deep into sector 3. That was turn 11, coming through the S's now, trying to fend off the Mercedes. On board with Bywald at the moment. Up through the gears. The DRS not available coming down the back straight. Callum Lloyd using a bit of the sand, but it seems. It's worth noting as well that Bywald is on the medium compound tyre, so he should be slower at this stage. Here comes the attack though, round the outside. This is for 6th place, and he will go defensive, but round the outside goes Lucas. All bit of a bumping, barging moment, touching of the wheels between the 2 cars, and he gets through. No problem whatsoever. In fact, Callum Lloyd now finds himself under pressure from the Alfa Romeo behind. Down the inside, having a little peep indeed. The Williams is there too, don't forget. Manages to retain that position though. Oh, bit of a mistake coming from Pulsic in the Alfa Romeo behind. The Williams might sense an opportunity going into turn 9. And there's a bit of a love tap on the rear diffuser. Hopefully won't cause any damage to Stefanenko's car. And we're starting to get some more drivers get involved in this now. The 77 behind for Haas certainly sniffing blood in the water as he tries to hunt down the pack ahead. Of course, points still available inside the top 10. Oh, and a mistake again from Callum Lloyd. He goes wide on the exit of turns 13. That opens the door for the Alfa Romeo. He comes down the inside, as does the Williams. They're trying to both go through. Aston Martin shuts the door. Lloyd not having any of that and manages to snoop on back behind. DRS available though. He's going to try and retake that position if he can. The Williams are still in the mix. We've got two wide situation on here. Oh, there's a big touch between the two of them. The Williams and the Haas have actually collided with one another. That is a disaster. Both cars losing front wings, it seems. Moses Ray's taking advantage of the situation. But yes, the 77 now without front wing. Where is the Williams though? That is the question. Stefanenko coming off the worst of it, although still in one piece at least, all the way down into P14. Interestingly, we have Dmitry Agapov inside pit lane for AlphaTauri, trying to undercut the competition ahead, it seems. In third place, we have this pack starting to come together quite nicely. On board with Alfa Romeo in the 88 with Chris behind the wheel. Elliott Simpson still in second, 1.5 seconds behind our leader, which is Maslenikov at the moment. Zenkov in the second of the Ferrari, still hanging on in there as well. All within 1 second of one another, so they've all got DRS. On board with Zenkov, going through the final corner. And completing lap 5. Although I think we might have a safety car situation at the moment. They're all going extremely slow. Yeah, safety car has been deployed, so racing has halted. No overtakes allowed. I did think that they were going rather slow through Sector 3. So, obviously feeling it is necessary to clear all the danger, or maybe just have a moment to cool the drivers' heads at this stage of the race after that collision going into Turn 1. Now, they will have picked up the leaders quite nicely. Of course, they're the first cars coming through Sector 1 as we speak. And this could be an opportunity for the first of the pit stops to unfold, depending on how far into the stint they are. I don't expect the Ferrari will go in because they are on mediums. So they're probably looking to get a bit more distance out of this particular compound. But maybe, potentially, for those on the softs, could be an opportunity to dive into the pits and gain some time. Now, Malisnenkov will have the job of restarting the grid when the safety car finally goes in. Stefanenko gets a penalty, the first of this event. And that's actually the Williams driver, I believe. So, interesting there. Well, of course, we only caught the... Well, we saw it come into turn 1. Looked to be that there was a collision between the Williams and the Haas driver. Oh, Maslenikov nearly going into the back end of the safety car. Obviously a bit of difference in pace between these two cars. So just got to be careful. And nobody going into the pit lane just as of yet, which is very interesting indeed. Was expecting some of them to go in at least. And Zenkov DNF, our first DNF of the race, which is one of the Ferraris. Yeah, one of the Ferraris. Zenkov in the pits. Massive development there for the Ferrari team. Of course, they had a really strong qualifying session going into the race as well. Seems to be a good result, but something has happened to Zenkov, and our first retirement has appeared. Now, I'm not too sure how we will have an indication as to whether or not the safety car is going to go into pit lane. I'm not too sure if they're just simply going to turn the lights off, so to speak, the headlights, because of course we don't have the top bar to tell us whether or not they are entering this time by. But again, talking about the tyres, important for the teams to keep up the temperatures, otherwise we could have another period where maybe we get a bit more oversteer coming from these cars, a lot of high power going to those rear axles. Of course, for the guys in the race, a bit of time to fuel save. Of course, not so much of a big issue nowadays in modern Formula 1. Of course, they are allowed to, well, they're not allowed to refuel. Of course, engine modes can be turned up and down as long as they have a litre of fuel at the end, which of course was a big topic for Sebastian Vettel and Aston Martin in the previous round of Formula 1 in the real world. And there's your notification, 50 laps remaining. And the safety car will be coming in this time by looks of things. He's just gone into the distance as best he can. And we will get back to green racing conditions now that the circuit has been cleared. All the teams have been given the opportunity now to close down the gaps to the cars ahead. Resets the timer effectively. Good opportunity for those behind to make up a few positions if they do it right. Of course, all the pressure on our leader here. Maslenikov will be looking in those rear view mirrors, trying to gauge when is the best time to start the race again. Of course, it is up to him to finally put down that right foot and allow the grid to start once more. Elliott Simpson warming up tyres, weaving up and down the back straight as we now come into the end of Sector 2. Coming down into the final corner. A lot of weaving going on in the line, trying to build up that temperature. We've talked about this already, making sure the tyres are in that optimal range as much as possible. Looks like one of the cars going up onto the top side of the road, just trying to have a look ahead, see what is what, and when will Maslenikov go. In fact, he's already gone down onto the start finishing line. We are back racing with 50 laps remaining. Elliott Simpson looking down onto the inside if possible. He's got the slipstream. DRS not in effect at this moment in time. And a big moment there for Maslenikov. Seizes all four tyres. Going into turn one. Just wrestles the Ferrari back into order before making the apex. We have a new leader here, ladies and gents. Aston Martin now leading the way with Elliott Simpson behind the wheel. Another change in the order, of course, is Igor Artemov. He has gone into the first podium position, the third podium position in the Haas, and that's demoted Alfa Romeo outside of those top three slots for the time being. In P5, we still have Lucas in the first of the Mercedes, and then we have Moses Reyes in P6. And that's, of course, the Alpine F1 team there. Here comes the counter-offensive from Alfa Romeo, though. Chris behind the wheel still, and firmly attached onto the back end of Maslenikov. Elliott Simpson, in the meantime, making good ground on these leading cars. And already up to 1.5 seconds, so very vital breaking that DRS zone if he can. Make sure that he doesn't get caught once again by the Ferrari and allowed him to take the lead of the race. Another big moment there for the Ferrari. Bit of a twitchy moment. DRS now into play. Coming across the start finishing line. You saw the wings open up. Of course, the Ferrari defenceless now as it's lost the slipstream of the Aston Martin ahead. Here comes the Haas down the inside. Thinks better of it and backs out of that one. In the meantime, the Ferrari goes wide and goes full 180. Big moment there for the second of the Ferraris. It's not been a good afternoon for them. In fact, they're going off circuit now. Rejoining at the apex of turn 2, all the way down to P8 now, as one of the Alpines is behind. That is Rodriguez in the 53. But what a moment there for Maslenikov. Big mistake coming into the hairpin. Just those cold tyres, and of course, everyone behind after the safety car, everyone was released, and he was just a sitting duck, trying to defend that position, but didn't go well for him. Now this has actually widened the gap slightly between the front row cars. Igor Artemov has a bit of work to do in order to catch Simpson ahead. In the meantime, he has to keep his eyes firmly on that rear view mirror, as the Alfa Romeo is still sitting tight in third. Bit of time to make up though. He's outside DRS zone, and I believe we may have another safety car deployment, if I'm not mistaken. Indeed we do. So yep, safety car out once more. And that was in response to, I believe, the Ferrari spinning out. Okay, now we have just a few laps left on the soft compounds, that is for certain. So some of the teams saying they can make the soft go, but as predicted, here come some of the teams into pit lane, even for the medium compounds. The Ferrari taking up the offer of entering pit lane, as does the Red Bull. So gas go up, very fast pit stop from the teams. In fact, both Ferraris coming in now. And also one of the McLarens, Dylan Tarboton, in the background there. His race not going too well either, P14, so he's gone down a few positions since the start. Up on the jacks, back down again, and away they go. Oh, bit of a longer stop here for Dylan. Problem with the McLaren, already going up into the multiple seconds. In fact, both Tarbotons going in for long stops, the Red Bull and the McLaren. So they are actually in position one after the other, 14th and 15th, but that is not a good stop for those teams. So backing up the grid once more, everyone close together. And now where Simpson, of course, found himself in a more favourable position where he had the slipstream of the Ferrari the last time that we had the safety car out, he now finds himself in a very vulnerable position. He had that advantage over the 1 second mark. Nobody could catch him with no DRS. He had a really nice restart to the race, but now that has been eliminated once again. And now he will have to fight off Igor Artemov and also the Alfa Romeo on the restart once again. Of course, it will be up to him as to when they decide to finally go. Safety car won't be coming out this time by, it seems. It'll be one more lap before going back to green. And we do have a bit of information about the race. Just moving back to the start. Of course, we are still in the early stages. Interesting to find out. So, Maslenikov started on the mediums, as did Alfa Romeo, with Chris behind the wheel. Elliott Simpson was the only one to start on soft compounds, which he's still sitting on at the moment. So was it, as they said during the interview we had during the warm-up, they think that they can make the softs last for quite a decent amount of time. Zenkov on the mediums, and also the second Aston Martin, Callum Lloyd, also on soft. The rest of the top 10, though, all starting this race on the medium compound. So that explains a lot to us, and that also explains why Simpson could get away at that restart quite effectively over the rest of the teams. Of course, they will be in their prime at the moment. Of course, being the safety car, that actually helps their day because they are starting on these soft compounds. If they can continue to go deep into the race, then they will have a better second half, that is for sure. But of course, everyone's got something up their sleeve in terms of tactics, so it'll be interesting to see how the other teams respond as we start to deploy the tactical side of this race. So some of the cars being allowed a flyby by looks of things, or a drive-by. Dylan Tarboton being allowed to unlap himself. And McLaren. So now down into the final running position, unfortunately, P16. Yeah, we've also got some of the other cars coming through. Back end of the order is Christopher Tarboton, both relatives from previous experience when they've raced at CFS. Vladislav Zenkov also doing a flyby lap, so trying to catch up to the back end of the safety car. Back to our leader, Elliot Simpson for Aston Martin. Igor Artemov in second place. So let's quickly run through some mid-race results for you while we've got the opportunity to. Elliot Simpson in P1, Igor Artemov in the Haas in second place. Very good result for them. And first of the Alfa Romeos in the 88. Biowald in the first of the Mercedes, sitting in P4. Very strong start to the race for him. Moises Reis in the first of the Alpine F1's cars, so rounding up those top 5 positions. Then we have Skivichenko in the first of the Red Bulls. And then the sister Alpine car sitting in P7. Callum Lloyd in P8, followed by Sega Matov in the second of the Mercedes cars. And I think we are about to go racing as we round up the top 10. Stefanenko in the Williams, of course, today had the penalty. And back to racing we go. Nice start there from Simpson as he comes down to the braking zone at turn 1. Artemov looking down the outside line potentially. Simpson goes deep into the braking zone though. They're side by side, and it is Artemov that has the advantage going into the lead of the race for Haas. He will get DRS as well, which is not what Simpson was planning on that particular restart. This is exactly rinse and repeat of what happened to the Ferrari car earlier on. He now sits in P10. Through sector 2 they go. The Alfa Romeo is still in the mix as well as they come down in towards the next set of corners. Turns 8, which is the hairpin. So a good restart there by Artemov. Took a full advantage of the mistake and pretty much the open door left by the Aston Martin driver. Now entering sector 2, he will now get DRS though, as the rest of the field now enters the same piece of tarmac. We've got a 2 wide situation here between Alpine and Williams. coming down into the braking zone. Who will have the advantage? The Williams on the inside. Oh, and a big crash between... I think that might have been Maslenikov. Yeah, the only remaining Ferrari car. He has no front wing anymore. So hard on the brakes, and he will go wide. So we didn't have a safety car for a short while. We have completed 14 laps of this race here so far. And I don't know if we're going to get... We're still going racing for the time being. No sign of the safety car. We're still going side by side as the Haas looks down the inside. Oh, a bit of a love tap there between Rodriguez and also Polsic. Going across the start finishing line now. The Ferrari goes into pit lane. A side by side situation between the second of the Ferraris. Good battle here between Tarbotin and the Mercedes. Sega Mentov as he comes into the final corner. And we're going to quickly switch back to this mid-pack battle as they are actually going 4 cars all in this mix for the final remaining points available. On board with Zenkov. Coming down into turn 9. DRS deployed. The Alfa Romeo, though, will have the same situation. It is the Alpine ahead that will be the sitting duck. Down into the inside. Nice move there from Zenkov. Red Bull trying to go around the outside. That's Christopher Tarbotin. Zenkov now applying pressure into the Alpine. This is for 8th place in class. Moving up the order after that mistake earlier on in the race. Moves in front for turn 1 braking. Gets the move nicely done. Classic move. Nothing really that can be done. And there's a spinner. That is Paul Polsic in the Alfa Romeo being turned a full 180 there. And now down into P12. That's not how he wanted that one to finish. Formichev in the Haas now, sitting in P10 under pressure from Tarbotin behind. Battle just up the road. Stefanenko in the Williams. Zenkov in the Ferrari behind, coming into sector 2. Applies the DRS. He will have the advantage on board with the Ferrari. Coming down onto the inside, both on the same compound tyre, although the Williams looks like it might be on hard. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the long run. But gets the move done, takes the position away, up into P7 now. So Zenkov really on a strong recovery drive on the second of the restarts. Have a battle for the lead starting to develop as well. Artemov firmly in the lead by half a second. DRS open now from the Alfa Romeo. Chris starting to close down the gap, 0.3 seconds, 0.2 seconds down the inside, too wide into the braking zone at turn 1. Clips the apex, they're still too wide, or however, Artemov is wise to the game, sticks to the outside line, and that provides him with the optimal position for turns 2. Simpson in the Aston Martin sitting in 3rd, goes a bit deep into turn 3 and 4. Still in the mix though, and of course as these guys start to fight, he will be drawn back into the fight for the lead. New best time from Alfa Romeo as well, which is 1:29.2. So starting to see some of the lap times we saw in qualifying emerge. On board with the 88. A little bit of a mistake there that time as they come out of turns 13. Just didn't manage to get the car to agree to turning in on the apex. Just went slightly deep into that particular corner. But of course he will have the slipstream and the DRS available to him as he comes across the start finishing line now. So it opens up that rear wing. That provides the extra horsepower required to close the gap. The gap is currently 0.3 seconds as they come down to the braking zone. Artemov this time going for the inside line. They are too wide into turn 1. And this time it will be Alfa Romeo that leads. Artemov demoted down into second place. He now gets the DRS coming back into sector 2. Braking heavily down on the outside. The Haas goes wide. Racing room given by both drivers. This is spectacular stuff. And it is still Alfa Romeo that lead the race. This is turning into quite a spectacular show between these guys. Simpson in the Aston Martin now closing in. He will now get DRS from the pack ahead. So this has brought another driver into the mix at last, down into turns 9. Another DRS zone starting to come into play. Simpson now firmly within the 1 second. They see the DRS open. They're now firmly interlocked with one another as they make their way down into sector 3. We do have a second DNF as well. Unfortunately, Callum Lloyd, the second of the Aston Martin teams, has been seen to be struggling in the race this evening. It seems to have been the second retirement, unfortunately, of this event. Simpson now just 1 second behind the leader. 0.5 seconds behind second place. Alfa Romeo seems to have, or Chris seems to have, a decent lead. He doesn't have to defend against Artemov this time by. Simpson, on the other hand, starting to apply a bit of pressure to the Haas team. DRS once again open, bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 2. Of course, will be now looking in that rear view mirror, thinking, if I attack, what kind of opportunity am I going to give to Simpson behind? And now Simpson's starting to find that really strong pace that we saw at the start of this race. We saw it earlier on. He managed to get away from the guys. Of course, he is also on the soft compound tyres, so he has an advantage at this stage of the race. The question is, when will those softs start to drop off as we come to the end of lap 19? Oh, we've actually just missed a driver. Oh, a bit of a problem there for Artemov. He actually disconnects from the server, or has a bit of lag, as he actually reappears behind Simpson. So that's a very strange way to gain a position in sim racing, but it does tend to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, not expecting that one. Move back down the order. We have a good battle between Stefanenko and Christopher Tarboten in the Red Bull cars. Nice gaps between all three of these, all within 1 second of one another for the top 10 positions. And go back to the battle between Simpson and Artemov, as the slipstream is in effect. He doesn't have DRS off the car ahead, so that will be affecting his race now. And Zenkov, the Ferrari, setting the fastest lap time by 1 whole tenth. And side by side here, coming into sector 2, the Aston Martin has to concede in the end. And Artemov retaking second place. That's allowed Alfa Romeo, though, Chris, to get away by 1.5 seconds, 1.7, according to the live timing. And he'll be now focusing on ahead, perfecting those racing lines, making sure that he's not making any mistakes to give those guys that DRS performance back. On board with Simpson, coming through the middle sector, second of the DRS zones. Oh, we've got another DNF, unfortunately, in the form of the 77. That's the second of the Haas drivers, and that's Andrei Fomichev. Unfortunately, adding to the list, that leaves our total running down to 14, so quite a high DNF rate so far as we enter lap 21. Still on board with Simpson, he will get the DRS coming across the start finishing line, of course, closing the gap, but it's not going to be enough to pose a threat to the Haas car ahead. into the middle sector once more. Still has that DRS available to him, closing the gap to Artemov, although very strong pace coming from Igor at the moment as he sets very strong pace, 129s in fact, last time by. Elliot Simpson did a 130.4, so not his personal best. But it has to be said, Chris, oh, and there's a mistake for Simpson. He goes round at the exit of turns 13, trying to squeeze that ounce of performance, or every ounce of performance, out of that Aston Martin. And here comes Skirichenko in the Red Bull, goes on by into 4th place. He will be kicking himself for that mistake there. He decides to finally come into the pit lane, get a new set of mediums. Of course, a lot of smoke being developed as he went wide, unfortunately, so that will be that set completely ruined. But the first of the pit stops there for the Aston Martin team. Now Artemov can focus on the task at hand, which is catching the leader of the race. Now the gap currently at 2 seconds as we come out of turns 11. Let's have a look at some of the data for you, or watching at home. So he needs to find at least, based on the last laps that was posted by both the drivers, they are only 0.03 of a second off pace of one another. So that is extremely close indeed. However, this time by, that gap has slowly but surely come down. So maybe we're starting to see Artemov gain some pace coming across the start finishing line. The data says so 1:29.425 for the leading car and a 1:29.5 for Artemov. So Alfa Romeo starting to extend that lead, if by just a tenth or two every lap, but that's all it takes to win a race like this. Gap now up to 2.5 seconds. So Artemov certainly a lot of work to do, and still a long way in this race though. It's all about managing those tyres and making sure there aren't any flat spots. Speaking of which, where is Simpson at the moment? The Aston Martin driver reappearing in 9th place after serving his first pit stop. So now he'll be playing the long game, of course. After going wide, he was on the podium positions, but he'll be thinking to himself, maybe just take it a bit easy. They're on, looks like they're still on the soft compound, to be honest, which is an interesting approach. Looking at the sidewalls, no, they are actually yellow, so they're going to the mediums. So now they're playing the long game. So they had the sprint, they were able to stay in those top positions, and now it's just about reining in the car, make sure she comes to the finishing line and play the long game, that is for sure. Of course, they won't really know where they are now because they've come into the pits. Everyone seems to be doing their own thing, different approaches to the race here this evening, and we'll only really see who's really now the strategy game on the head when we come to the final stops. Now following this battle for 4th place, Zenkov in the Ferrari behind, Skirichenko in the Red Bull, obviously taking up the position left vacant by Elliot Simpson earlier on. Just up the road by a few seconds also is Bywald in the Mercedes, so he finds himself in a bit of a lonely situation in 3rd place, but I'm sure he won't be complaining about that podium spot. On board with Zenkov coming through Sector 2, or Sector 1, my apologies. Ferrari's looking extremely stable coming through this particular set of corners, I have to say. And he will now have DRS available between turns 10 and 11. Yellow flag in Sector 3, so we may have a car that's gone wide. Seems to have cleared itself now, but luckily nothing developing too much from that. And all the cars now back out on track, so I believe most of the teams have served their pit stop. Let's have a quick peek. No, in fact, the top 5 drivers are still yet to serve a pit stop of any form, so that'll be interesting to see how that spices things up. Of course, Simpson all the way down in P9, he has served a pit stop. Moses Reyes, also another one, he's currently sitting in 7th place. He has not served a pit stop either, but everyone else seems to have gone into the pits at least once. Some people even going in 2 times for front wings. So I expect some more cars to come into pits. Zenkov now comes into pit lane after serving his, and also Skirichenko now also down into P5. So some changes going on up and down the order. So the Ferrari on a really strong drive at the moment, making his way back up into 4th place. And also Anton still needs to come into the pit lane too. So the Red Bull, although currently sitting in this very strong position at the moment, will still need to come in for a new set of tyres in the near future. Back to our leaders as Alfa Romeo start to extend that advantage ever so slightly, although in the meantime that last lap pretty much identical to one another. There's a few hundredths of a second between the two of them, but Artemov certainly applying the pressure and keeping it firmly in place, making sure that there are no mistakes coming from the Alfa Romeo ahead. We've also got looks like a blue flag situation coming up ahead of us. So fingers crossed that won't implement the race for these two. Artemov in the Haas. Last lap time for you, 1:29.2. And compared to the leading car, 1:29.18. So really not any pace difference whatsoever between these two. Race starting to develop for 3rd place now. Bywald under pressure from Zenkov, who's really on a charge himself in the Ferrari. Really has caught up to him in no time at all. The gap was at least 3 seconds last time we looked, but that has come hammering down. Maybe a mistake there from the Mercedes driver going down into the inside of the final corner there. Zenkov taking that position back and into the top 3 positions once again. Bywald responding, going into pit lane. Thinks, okay, this isn't working anymore. Time for some new rubber. That allows the Red Bull to go into 4th place himself. Skirichenko still himself to come into pit lane. So very strange strategy coming from the Red Bull team. And Bywald in the Mercedes going down into P6 now as the other cars start to make their way on by. Coming out pit lane. And side by side with Simpson this time. So the Aston Martin driver, of course, trying to recover as best he can. Still in 9th place, but finds himself side by side with the Mercedes. Gets back behind for the second of the DRS zones. And this time Simpson looking down the inside into the braking zone. Gets past the Mercedes. Here comes the switchback from Bywald. Amazing stuff. But somehow the Aston Martin stays ahead. I thought for certain that the switchback was going to be sufficient, but it wasn't. So Simpson back into 8th place. Of course, DRS will be available to Bywald in the Mercedes now. He will have it just for this run down into Sector 3. Gap last time we looked, 0.8 seconds. And into the S's. on board with Bywald, and interestingly he is on the hard compound of tyres now, so we're expecting his pace to drop off ever so slightly as one of the Alpines goes into pit lane. So Mercedes clearly playing the long game for the remainder of the race here at Bahrain, thinking about just maybe staying out of pit lane, staying out of trouble. We'll still have that pays off in the later stages, of course. But Simpson now starting to make good ground on the the medium compound tyre, my mistake. So we're expecting him to now start and catch up with Tarboton in the second of the Red Bulls. He's now in DRS zone, coming through the last few corners of Sector 1, down into Turn 9. Watch that braking, as it's easy to seize up that left front tyre, of course. And the DRS open now on board with Simpson as he comes down into the slipstream of the Red Bull. Up through the S's. He seems to be losing a bit of ground to Tarboton ahead. Maybe some set-up distance between the two teams. Let's have a look at the last lap times as they become available. Last lap times were both 1:31s from both these teams. DRS will be available once again though to Simpson. Rear wing opens up, coming down into Turn 1, braking zone down onto the inside line for Simpson. Tarboton doesn't really respond. There's nothing really he can do at this point. Of course, the slipstream is very effective on these cars. Be interesting to see what kind of tactical approach he has. The DRS once again open. Here comes the fight back down into turns 2 and 3. Both cars on the medium compound. And that's another position there for Aston Martin, going up into 6th place now. You have the battle for the lead starting to develop as well, so we won't miss that. They switch back to Alfa Romeo. They're still in charge of this race. Artemov firmly behind in the Haas in second. 0.6 seconds as they come across the start-finishing line. So that has come down by at least 1.5 seconds. Last time we looked, the DRS is now available. And we have a fight on our hands for the lead. Small little look down the inside from Artemov there as they come into the next braking zone. That was turns 4. Through the S's of Sector 1. And we're now approaching pretty much the halfway point of this race, ladies and gents. So teams will be starting to think about that final pit stop and whether or not it is going to be beneficial to come in earlier or later on this particular set of tyres. 0.6 seconds coming through Sector 2. And Chris still holding on very nicely. Last lap times for you. 1:30.4 and 1:29.6. So I believe Chris may have made a mistake on that previous lap in the leading 88 car, and Artemov having a slight peek down the inside, not too sure what's going on there. DRS opens up, 0.7 seconds coming across the start finishing line. He's actually lost a bit of pace, comes back down once again. Turn 1. Nice exit from the Alfa Romeo though. Haas still hangs on in there, 0.5 seconds, so it has dropped ever so slightly. DRS open once more. And this time he actually goes wide on the exit of turns 4. So that's cost Artemov a slight bit of time there. Not what he was hoping for at all. Going back up to 0.7 seconds. Of course, these cars in the dirty air will start to suffer from understeer as those front compound tyres begin to overheat. On board with Haas. have several battles now beginning to unfold in the top 10 positions. Christopher Tarboton trying to hold off the Mercedes of Bywald at the moment, coming through into Sector 2. Down to the hairpin, Mercedes going wide. The Red Bull tries to defend slightly onto the inside. Gets back up to speed as they come down in towards turn 9. We have Zenkov ahead in the Ferrari as well, who is trying to make a getaway as best as possible. Bywald opens up the DRS. Will it be enough though to close the gap? Christopher Tarboton gets a nice getaway out of turn 10. Won't be enough of a overspeed for the Mercedes to take advantage. In fact, he's losing ground as we now enter the S's in Sector 3. Bit of work to do to catch Zenkov up ahead. He's actually on a flyer right now, already catching up to Simpson, who finds himself in P5. You can see him just entering the point of turn 1 just now. In the meantime, no Bible looking down the inside. The Mercedes thinks better of it. He goes for it in the end, thinks twice, but makes the move stick. The Red Bull demoted down into 8th place here. With the sand being picked up by Bywald as he goes onto the sand ever so slightly. Nicely held though, and it's one position more. Zenkov in the meantime starting to close the gap to Simpson. We're going to go slightly further back though, because we have a battle between one of the McLarens, that is Tarboton, and also Reyes for the Alpine F1 team. Down on the inside goes Dylan, braking nicely. It's a nice, well, this is for the one of the final points available here in the championship. Top 10 now for McLaren F1. And a nice classic move here at Bahrain. Oh, bit of a moment for Bywald. Going wide on the exit of turns 12, and it continues all the way down to 13. Picking up sand and dust and debris from the circuit limits. Could be an opportunity for Tarboton here in the Red Bull. He will now get DRS, of course. Oh, and there's another mistake there for one of the the Red Bulls. That's the sister car. That would be a horrible sight to see for his teammate. That's Skirichenko going around in the 97. In the meantime, though, Christopher tries to have a look down the inside. Bywald defends on the outside very nicely. Able to make a bit of headway on the exit. Christopher struggling to keep up with Bywald now as they come down into Sector 2. Just looking at the lap time for you as they come across the start finishing on 1:36 for the Mercedes driver. Red Bull on 1:31s at the moment as he goes down the inside of turns 13. Very bold move there by Christopher. Nearly made it stick, but don't think that was ever going to end in a positive way. Well, actually, I don't think that might not be Tarboton, because we haven't seen Skirichenko for some time. He's all the way down in P11 now, so bad news for him. Have we got a problem here for Christopher? Although we do have a safety car out. Yeah, safety car has been deployed, so that explains why Christopher was backing out of that particular battle. And so we have the Porsche now coming out onto the circuit. I didn't actually see any major collisions. We might have had an instance elsewhere on the circuit, unfortunately. Some of the teams now coming into pits though, the Williams. So we have Stefanenko, Christopher Tarboton into pit lane. Also Maslenikov in the second of the Ferraris. They're all sensing an opportunity to cut short the pit time and try to overtake some of the other teams here. Back up to speed. as Lenikov himself up into 14th place, so he's still at the bottom of the running order. Unfortunately, maybe this early pit stop might be a chance to get back into the fight. Changes of the lead, of course, as they all start going by and trying to catch the safety car back up. Second of the Alphas going into pit lane. Pole 6 sensing opportunity himself. Simpson comes in for Aston Martin. Nice quick change. The jacks go up, back down again, straight back out. This time on the soft compound, so they're really starting to go deep on these particular sets. Now waiting for the safety car to pick up the leader here in this particular pack, which is still the 88. Before being unleashed once again. Fingers crossed we can get back to green racing conditions fairly soon. So we've had a slight reshuffle in the pack. We do still have our two leaders at the front though, the 88 and also the first of the Haas drivers in the form of Artemov. This time though we have the number 6, the Alpine of Pro 6 in third place. So this recent safety car deployment has really turned the race in their favour so far. Simpson finds himself in P4, so good recovery from him. Oh no, sorry, it's not Simpson, it's Simpson, and then it is Zenkov. So we actually have a lapped car in between the actual set here, so I'm not sure if they're going to be allowed drive-bys and get back onto the back of the order or not, or whether or not they're actually going to stay in their positions as they are. Yeah, Simpson finds himself in 4th place, but with traffic in between. And that is one of the Mercedes cars that finds himself separating the two of them, as well as one of the Alfa Romeos as well. Oh, and one of the cars going wide on the exit of turn 9. Very strange indeed. And once again an opportunity for the cars behind. Artemov will be trying his best to plan his escape if he can, to take the lead of the race and lead for Haas once the safety car goes back into pit lane perhaps. Have to wait and see. Let's quickly have a look at the mid-race results while we're waiting for us to go back to green racing conditions. Of course, we've already mentioned that Chris is leading the way in the 88, Artemov in 2nd place for the Haas. Paul Polsic in the sister car for Alfa Romeo, really good under those safety car conditions, has gone right up the order into 3rd place. Simpson finds himself in P4, Zenkov for the Ferrari in P5. He's made a really nice recovery drive himself as some of the blue lapped cars go by. P6 is Bioworld in first in the Mercedes. Taboten for Red Bull in P7, and then we have Stefanenko in P8. Taboten nicely up into P9 for McLaren, and then Moses Reyes in the first of the Alpines here this afternoon, or evening, sorry. Sister car also in 11th place with Fran behind the wheel. Seda Matov in the second of the Mercedes cars in P12. Skirichenko finds himself in P13, and then last of the running cars is the Ferrari Maslenikov, who finds himself in 14th after that accident early on in the race, which has not gone their way. They were hoping for a really strong result here this afternoon after taking pole position in qualifying, but unfortunately that's the way racing goes sometimes. So we will have to wait for the safety car to come back in before the grid is once again unleashed for the remainder of this race. Fingers crossed. And this is actually the third safety car session that we've had so far this evening. Of course, now we're getting to the end of the strategic phase of this race. Teams are starting to decide on their final compounds to get to the checkered flag. In this case, it will be the softs that will take the 88 home. Artemov in the car behind will no doubt be looking for that faster compound as well. Yes, they are. So the two front running teams both on soft compound tyres for the sprint to the line. And I believe Simpson is also on soft compound. So looking at the strategic approach, most of the teams have done 2 stops, although Igor and Chris, both the front running teams, only have completed 1 stop. So that will be a miracle if they can get to the end on this set of compounds. Board with Artemov, and 20 laps remaining here in this race out of 56 completed, or to be completed. Very important for the teams, just manage those temperatures in those tyres. Now Artemov will be looking for that opportunity to take the lead on the restart, as previously mentioned. He does actually have the fastest lap of the race with a 1:28.135 himself, so he will have that slight boost of confidence going into the final stage of the race. Of course, the fastest lap record at the Bahrain circuit belonging to Valtteri Bottas, which was a 1:27.2 in qualifying trim. So very nice to see that the guys and the teams are actually performing in a similar fashion. Very fast indeed. As we now wait for the safety car to return to pit lane. Chris backing up the pack, waiting for the time to go. The safety car will come back in this time. And we are once again racing. Chris makes a get for it right now, so trying to break that opportunity from Artemov. Chris does get DRS from the safety car, which I wasn't expecting, but he opens up that rear wing to get a few more ponies going out into the first corner. Artemov looks left and right, tries to find a way through, but it's not working. Down into the second of the DRS zones, though, looking for the attack onto turn 4. Outside line available for the Haas. Alfa Romeo defends on the inside as best he can. Chris trying to give as much racing room as possible. We're still too wide. Coming through the S's in sector 2. They switch positions. This time the Haas on the outside line. Going into the hairpin. Great stuff. In the meantime, in the background, we have Simpson going too wide with the second of the Alfa Romeos. And it is a bit of a side slapper moment. And we have a problem for one of the cars. And it is... yeah, Artemov, he's gone off the circuit, had a bit of an issue coming down into that hairpin, slight sideways moment, and finds himself now inside the top 10 positions. That's worked out brilliantly for the Alfa Romeo team. They currently sit first and second in the standings. Elliott Simpson being overtaken by Zenkov after his own attempt failed to take second place. So these restarts really are kicking up the order, moving the grid around. Yeah, as mentioned, Alfa Romeo now leading this race. Now Zenkov needs to find an extra 0.3 seconds. He will then get the DRS needed to catch the front pack with 17 laps remaining. On board with Zenkov. Aston Martin is close behind, of course. DRS available to all of these cars in this particular pack at the moment. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars all within 1 second of one another. Here comes Simpson down the inside, has a little peep, can't make it stick though. Closed the door by the Ferrari just in the nick of time before it got a chance to develop. Oh, a bit of a moment for Bywald in the Mercedes, goes onto the curbing. We've seen him do that a few times this evening. Luckily though, it holds it together. You've got the Red Bull behind, Tarboton behind the wheel of that particular machine. And he will be looking for any mistake from the cars ahead. Big moment from behind that, Stefanenko and some of the other cars going for it for the final top 10 positions. The Williams defending now against the rest of the order, and it looks like Dylan trying to get in the mix in the McLaren as well. Nice to see all the backpack as well going in for overtakes. This is the closest one we have at the moment. The Mercedes Bywald holding off Tarboton. And now entering sector 2. Maslenikov in the Ferrari. He's at the back of the order at the moment. He's actually set the fastest lap here for the race so far. So the Ferrari driver trying to make amends for that earlier mistake. 1:27.899 is now the time to beat. Back with the fight for third place. The Ferrari driven by Zenkov holding off Simpson. Coming down into the final corner. The Alfa Romeo is trying to make a getaway as best as possible. The gap up to 2 seconds. Here comes the DRS though. Do they fight now and risk losing the cars ahead? Of course, this is a perfect situation for our leaders at the moment. Simpson needs to play this very coy and careful. Does not want to give the Alfa Romeos a chance to get away. Zenkov is actually starting to catch the guys ahead as well. In the meantime, the overall leader, Chris, in the 88, is making a move. He's 2 seconds ahead of his teammate at the moment. But he is about to be caught by these two guys fighting over third place. So it's going to be a three-way fight for second place. at the current rate of things. Let's have a look at the last lap times as they come in for you. So last lap time was a 1:28.533 for Posic. Zenkov himself 1:28.8. So this next lap, maybe the tyres weren't heated up enough, but that's not relative to what we're seeing on our screens right now. The Ferrari and the Aston Martin really starting to push in the closing stages and catching up to the Alfa Romeo in second place. On board with Simpson. Lost a bit of ground in sector 2 to the Ferrari ahead. They're still in that DRS zone, which is so vital to keeping pace. Alfa Romeo back on top with the fastest lap, 1:27.5. So we see now that pace starting to come on to our timing board. Now we've also not forgetting Skirichenko at the back of the order. He's got to make up a 5-second gap to catch up with the next car. Maslenikov, who set the fastest lap earlier on, 6 seconds adrift of one of the Alpines in 12th place. So he'll be putting his head down at the moment. Oh, we have a new DNF. We have a new DNF. It's one of the Red Bulls, Christopher Tarboten, who was sitting firmly in those top 10 positions, has sadly retired from this afternoon's race. So not the way he was wanting to end this particular one. He was going really well. But obviously an instant out on circuit, unfortunately for him. Another car back into pit lane. We've got Skirichenko in the Red Bull, the second of the Red Bulls, now coming back out. So a bit of a strange strategy going on inside that particular garage. Not the best afternoon for these guys. In the meantime, nice battle between these two for 8th place. McLaren, which is driven by Tarboten. Bywald having an incident and moving down the order once more. So very quick driver there in that Mercedes, but having a few mistakes throughout the course of this race has eventually lost a few positions in the process. Back to Zenkov in the Ferrari then. He's got to make up at least 2 seconds before he can start to catch the Alfa Romeos. Simpson is staying firmly attached as well. He doesn't want to allow the Ferrari to get away. Of course, his teammate Lloyd, Callum Lloyd, had a tragic accident earlier on, it seems. So he's the only Aston Martin out there for the first round. So it'll be decent if he can bring home some solid points for the constructors. Maslenikov getting past Bywald now. We just missed that overtake as it was happening, unfortunately. So the Mercedes going down outside of those top 10 positions now. So it's going from bad to worse here for Lucas. In fact, he's going wide on the exit of turn 9 as well. Here comes one of the Alpines. Oh, rejoining very dangerously. And he's actually got a lot of dust on those tyres. And it's costing him a lot of time. Allows the Alpine to go on through, which is probably the safest thing to do at the moment, especially going through these fast corners. Big crash into the barriers goes the Mercedes. Lucas Bywald, just too much dirt and gravel on those Pirellis, and that is what happens, especially going through these high-speed corners. That is a huge collision there. It still has all 4 wheels attached, but there's a bit of smoke coming from the engine bay. Looks like it might be game over. Rear wing has detached as well as the front wing, and it probably will be a safety car. Yeah, indeed, here comes the safety car now. So that's our 4th one of this evening's event. And of course, this will be a good opportunity for the other teams to make up some of that lost ground. So safety car man's doing a lot of driving here for this particular event. But of course, the guys are still learning the cars, still trying to find their feet. These are new cars for this season, first time that they've used them as well. So different powertrains, different torque ratios to all adapt to. And of course, Bahrain, very high speed circuit, not the easiest to get home and comfortable with. So our leaders now coming down into the final sector. The safety car just entering sector 2 as we speak. So it'll be some time before they find themselves on the back end of the Porsche. And Bywald, another retiree, leaving our total running down to 12 cars here this evening out of 17 that started. And now we begin this process over again, monitoring the tyre pressures and the temperatures, and making sure that they are ready to make that getaway. Of course, both Alfa Romeos very strong on the restart in the closing stages of this race. Of course, they had that advantage. They broke the DRS from the cars behind, and that was their party piece to secure victory for both of their teams. They're looking at taking home first and second maximum available points for the constructors. But now that we've had this further development and we have another safety car period, we have Zenkov in the Ferrari in third place. He will be looking to ensure with every single ounce of energy that he has that he does not break that DRS. Even under the safety car conditions, looks like he's fairly close to the car ahead. And then we also have Elliott Simpson in the Aston Martin in P4. Artemov, another fast driver. So Igor in the Haas. He was, of course, fighting for the lead for a good portion of this race. Don't count this guy out. He's going to be making a lot of moves in the final stages here. Safety car now back up to speed. Here comes the weaving, getting those temperatures back up to optimal. They're going to go cold in a few moments' time, of course, under these slow speeds. The Porsche now pulling into the distance to begin the safety car procedure. And just while we're waiting for the guys to go by, and once we wait for the green light to be shown once more, don't forget to give the stream a like, give us a sub, and if you are looking to join the league, look at the links in the description or come watch the live timing, see the strategies unfold as we enter the final stages of this race, and just find out what a great series this is. Plenty of racing action throughout the day. If you have missed it or if you're just joining us, hit that rewind button, look through some of the footage that has been captured here on this stream. Plenty of overtakes between some of the guys and plenty of battles for the lead, the top 3 positions and also the top 10. So what a way to open up the season here at Bahrain. Next round will be on the 28th of August, San Marino Grand Prix. So that will change the pace a lot. A very different layout of circuit going forward. And it's a very packed calendar indeed, all the way through San Marino. Portuguese Grand Prix, very, very nice circuit. Actually one of my personal favourites, just looking through the calendar that they've got set up here for this particular championship. And then, of course, Monaco GP in September as well on the 18th. So a lot of differences in the circuits, high speed, low speeds. And, of course, Monaco GP, what a way that will be to win that one. Very technical, lots of walls everywhere. And very different approach to what they will have for Bahrain. All the pack is now caught back up. In fact, we have just one car, which is Skirichenko in the Red Bull, the 97, starting to catch back up to the pack. All now coming down into the final corner here, or final set of corners, my apologies. So yeah, coming out of turn 13, weaving going on. The safety car now goes into the distance. We will get a restart here. And no, safety car staying out. My apologies for that. That's my fault, my misunderstanding. Safety car staying out for one more lap as we get 10 laps remaining. This is going to be one hell of a sprint to the finish. And of course, the advantage for the Alfa Romeo guys is that they are occupying those 2 front row seats. So it'll be interesting to see if they use a bit of team tactics here. Maybe the number 6 will be used as a buffer zone between the two teams, between him and Zenkov in the Ferrari in third place? Or will they both try to help each other get away from the pack and accelerate into the distance? We don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. I believe the safety car will be coming in this lap, though. My apologies. And I think we're just waiting for Skirichenko to catch up to the back of the order, which he just is as we speak. Yeah, he's just arrived behind Maslenikov. He's going to be a tough target to catch in that Ferrari. Very quick indeed. Was leading the race, of course, at the start for this evening's event. And now coming up into the closing stages. So entering the middle sector. Once again, start to think about those tyre temperatures, where you're going to place the car for the start. Zenkov and Simpson will get DRS coming down into turn 1. Will they be able to separate these Alfa Romeos? And of course you have Artemov in the Haas down in P5. He will certainly be looking to get onto the podium here after his strong performance earlier on. Also got Williams in the just outside the top 5 positions. So Stefanenko in the 24, really strong end to the race for him. He'll be looking to move up into the top 5, of course. And the first of the Alpines close behind in P7 in the form of Moses Reyes. Safety car driving off at speed now. So handed the restart over to Chris. Oh, there's a bit of a touch between Zenkov. Yeah, Zenkov has actually tapped the back end of Posic in the number 6. So that has not gone well. We've got the front wing missing from Zenkov, as that has been a very dramatic restart indeed. Wasn't expecting that at all. That's really scumpered his chances of applying some pressure to these Alfa Romeos. Simpson looks to the right-hand side, but opts for the outside line. Here comes the attack from Simpson. He actually makes it into second place. Gets the long way around. Amazing stuff from the Aston Martin driver. And here comes Artemov. Artemov now on the attack on the outside line. Alfa Romeo in trouble here as they lose 2 positions in about 3 or 4 corners alone. Next in line is Stefanenko in the Williams. Will he be able to take advantage of this onslaught? Down into the hairpin they go. Struggling to get the tyres back up to temperature, it seems. They are on the soft compound, although the Williams is on mediums. All eyes on the front row, though, as Simpson now under attack from Artemov. Artemov, we know, is very strong indeed on the restarts, so will be able to get into second place. They're just hovering on the border of 1 second away from our leader here, which is still in the hands of Chris in the Alfa Romeo. Down into Sector 3 they go. Looking for the opportunity coming into DRS. Artemov will be waiting to attack, all within 1 second of one another though. Simpson opening up the DRS to try and catch our leader here. On board with Artemov in the Haas. Looking down the inside, he's going to make the move. Makes the apex, a bit aggressive on the curbing. That unsettled the car ever so slightly, and Simpson is able to retain second place. Here comes the second defensive though. Rinse and repeat of what we saw last lap. Going around the outside is the Haas. Here comes the switchback. Simpson goes deep into the braking zone. Can't get the car turned in. Goes slightly wide, but still hanging on in second place. This is obviously great news for our leader. Chris is now getting away out of the DRS zone. 1.4 seconds coming into the middle sector. In the meantime, Posic is starting to recover. He's finding his feet once more in 4th place. Coming into turn 9, he will get DRS once again, and we have a 3-way fight, ladies and gents, for second place. Once again on board with Artemov in the Haas, coming through the S's. Bit of understeer starting to come into play. Simpson going wide on the exit at turn 13. Bit of oversteer starting to appear in the Haas. Russell's back under control though. He's having to back off and brake early for the final corner. Nice getaway from Simpson though as he catapults that Aston Martin onto the start finishing line. DRS is opened. Aston Martin has no defence, of course. He's now lost that gap to the leader. And here comes Artemov down on the outside line. The Aston Martin defends as best it can, but this time it is going to be Artemov that takes second place from Simpson. Nice little defensive move, but wasn't enough to hold off that Haas. Nice attack. Here comes the retaliation. Simpson back down on the inside. The switchback might be open, but no, not strong enough. The Haas back into third place. Simpson, nice aggressive attack. Last moment dive into that particular corner. Just about made it work. In the meantime, Posick is looking on in fourth place in the 6th Alfa Romeo. Looking to maybe open a door if one presents itself. Just 6 laps remaining in the final stages of the opening round. DRS once again open. In the meantime, Chris is getting away up ahead 2.5 seconds, 2.7 as we enter the S's. So this, of course, is his dream come true. He's going to be on track to take his first victory of the season if all goes well. We have battles going on up and down the order throughout the top 10, but we're going to stay with the leaders for the time being. Artemov waiting for that DRS opportunity once again. Going on to the start-finishing line once more. Posick in P4 looking on as best he can. All last minute change for the defensive line from Simpson. This time he's able to hold off the Haas. No opportunities, no doors open this time by. Down into P8, or sorry, turn 8, my apologies. On board with Posick as he looks on to the cars ahead. Still staying in line for the time being. Zenkov sets the new fastest lap. He's now down into 12th place. Unfortunately, the Ferrari, not a good day for them, both making mistakes. In the meantime, though, his teammate, Maslenikov, all the way into P4. So we have a big incident for Artemov. Going sideways on the exit of turn 13. He's lost those positions down into 6th now, as you have Stefanenko in the Williams, Maslenikov in the Ferrari going through, and of course the Alfa Romeo, the number 6, with Posick going up into 3rd. So not too sure if there was contact between him and Simpson or if it was just a mistake. We actually missed that bit of footage, unfortunately. We were switching through to the Ferrari. In the background, though, Dylan Topboten in the McLaren going side by side with one of the Alpine. Moses Grays defending on the outside. Nicely done. Most of the McLaren into 8th place. Here comes the switchback, trying to attack once more. Of course, he has the DRS available to him. Bit of a touching between these two. The wheels bump and barge, but it is the McLaren that comes out on top. Back to the Williams. Stefanenko holding on to P5. Artemov seems to be back in order. So it looks like it was a small mistake from the Haas driver. That's a huge gap now to the front rowing teams, though. Elliott Simpson leading the way in 2nd place. He is now under pressure from both Posick in the Alfa Romeo and Maslenikov in the Ferrari. So seems to be really strong pace from both the Ferrari cars. Just both seem to be running into issues at some point in the race. But both recovering nicely now. Maslenikov back on the attack. He will get DRS for Posick. And this is for 3rd place. So both for podium positions. 3-way fight for 2nd, ladies and gents. Switching back to Stefanenko momentarily, as here comes Artemov in the Haas. He's going down onto the inside line. He's cleared the Williams before the braking zone and moving back up into that position. Quickly switching over to 3rd place. Posick defending against Maslenikov. Oh, and a mistake, another mistake for one of the Ferraris here this evening. that is rinse and repeat of what we saw earlier on. This is such an unfortunate day for them. They have such strong pace, but these small mistakes add up to big losses. He now finds himself in the jaws of the Haas driver behind in P5 coming into turn 9. He will have the DRS, of course. Open up that rear wing. And here comes the extra horsepower and decides to back out of it. He's going to wait for the run down into turn 1, it seems. We just have a few laps remaining now. On board with Artemov, coming across the start finishing line. Really confident on the brakes there. Gained quite a bit of ground coming into turn 1. Ooh, slight moment for the Haas. Run a bit wide coming through sector 1 and the exit of turn 4. Through the S's they go. Every single card now going on the table for everyone involved in these fights. The McLaren really starting to push in the final stages. Talbotton wrestling that car back into order as he comes up and over the hill on the exit of turn 8. Williams now under pressure. So we've got two fights going on simultaneously. And in fact, we've got a fight for second place as well between Posick and Simpson. So we're going to have to pick very wisely which battle we're going to choose to watch at any given moment. Only a few laps still to go before the checkered flag is flown and closes the first round of the championship. Coming into the final corner is the Ferrari. Artemov in the Haas, now close behind. DRS once again available. Rear wing opens up. And that slipstream available. Artemov looking down the inside. The Ferrari staying on the racing line. That's all he needs to do. Keeps him at bay. DRS was open there for Artemov, but wasn't able to capitalise. Going back to the Williams behind. The McLaren not able to close that gap sufficiently. And also going even further back than that. There's a third battle unfolding. Anton Skivichenko starting to apply pressure to the Mercedes. Just 2 laps remaining. Lap 56 of 57. Of course, that doesn't count the warm-up lap. So it is 56 laps of racing. 57 if you include the warm-up lap. Opportunity here for Skivichenko in the Red Bull. And another problem for Artemov in the Haas. He's going down the order once more into P8. So that's going to give some breathing space to Maslenikov in the Ferrari. Now Artemov finds himself behind one of the Alpines. Just up ahead, here comes the Williams and the McLaren. Nice switch back from Talbotton down into turn 1, the braking zone. Oh, just misses the back end of the Williams as he comes into the apex. Nicely done. Good racing between those two. Simpson, 0.7 seconds ahead of Posick as we come on to the final lap, ladies and gents. It's been a stunning race. What a way to end. There's battles going on for pretty much every single position going. Great stuff to see in the opening round of this season. And as your leader at the moment, the Alfa Romeo coming down now into the end of Sector 2. Through the S's he goes for Alfa Romeo. It's been an up and down race for all of the teams involved. Ferraris have been leading, Alfa Romeos have been leading, Aston Martins have been leading. You could not really decide who was going to take this one home. Oh, we've got maybe a position pass here between these two. No, looks like Simpson might be able to hang on into it as the leader now enters the final corner of the final lap here at Bahrain International Circuit. What a way to start the season for Alfa Romeo. The 88 takes the first victory. Elliott Simpson in the Aston Martin separates the two and comes home in second place. And third place belongs to the sister car, Paul Polsick. Amazing attempt to retake that position, but yeah, that Aston Martin put up one hell of a fight. What a way to end this one, ladies and gents. So let's run through some of the cars now coming across the start finishing line. Still racing going on, of course, as they come to the checkered flag. That's your official finishing order for this evening's race. Let's run through it, shall we? So, as already mentioned, then great race there from Chris in the Alfa Romeo 88. Really strong performance, made the getaway when it was needed, especially under all the safety cars that we've had so far this evening. Unfortunately, a lot of cars not getting to the checker flag, but he put down the pace when it really mattered, and that's what brought home that position for him this evening. Elliott Simpson, again, a few mistakes, or just the one mistake actually from the Aston Martin driver. Unfortunately, his teammate too retired, Callum Lloyd, earlier on in the race, but what a way to make up for the team, coming home in second place. He was in the top 9 or so after a small spin halfway through the race, but he's recovered spectacularly. Then we have the second of the Alfa Romeos, Paul Polsick, really starting to support his teammate. Again, another driver that was in those top 5 positions, but at the end of the race really put up the tempo and put down some strong racing pace. Then the Ferraris, Maslenikov, really strong performance from him. Again, another driver that had several mistakes throughout the race, but when it mattered, right near the end, put down some solid lap times and come home P4. Nick Stefanenko playing the long game for the Williams team. Hard compound tyres on that particular machine, strong enough to hold on those top 5 positions. And of course, Moses Reyes, the first of the Alpine drivers, coming home in P6 after some good fighting amongst those top 10 positions. Skirichenko, strong pace from the Red Bull driver, had to settle for 7th place after a few mistakes, entered the pit lane a few times as well, which may have led to that result there, but still a nice points haul for the team. And then the McLaren, Dylan Tarboton, on his own representing the team for the opening round, but still good enough to bring home some points for them. Igor Artemov, what a race he has had this evening, ladies and gents. He's been up at the front fighting for the lead, and then it all unwinded near the closing stages. Just a few mistakes, pushing the car, that Haas, to the absolute limits. And unfortunately, a small mistake here and a small mistake there see him land in P9. Very, very unfortunate day for him, but at least he can still bring some points home. And then, of course, we have the first of the Mercedes. Nazar Sadegmetov, sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly there, coming home with the last final points of the session and of the race for the Petronas team. Second of the Alpines coming home in P11, and then Zenkov. Unfortunate race for him, and again another Ferrari that is very, very strong indeed. A lot of performance coming out of that car, but unfortunately just didn't bring it home at the time when it mattered. A few mistakes, and unfortunately they found themselves in a very awkward position, but still made it to the checkered flag. And then we have Lucas Bywald, the second of the Mercedes cars, unfortunately the first or the latest to retire. Christopher Tarboton in the Red Bull, another retiree, and Andrei Formichev for the Haas, unfortunately retired. Again, Callum Lloyd, we already mentioned them for the Aston Martin team, unfortunate way to retire. And Dmitry Agapov, he was actually a substitute driver for AlphaTauri, and unfortunately saw the garage early on in the race as well. So that is your official race results as they stand at the checkered flag. Great racing throughout in the darkness here at Bahrain International Circuit, ladies and gents. If you have enjoyed it, or if you're interested in joining the action again, I urge you to look into the description, find the links for the championship below, and join the action. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 vacancies left before the season continues in a week's time. In the meantime, though, that is it from us here at Chequered Simsports. We've brought you this live stream, so if you have enjoyed it, then please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more races in the future, and we will see you around. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Take it easy out there and drive safe.